They came from a world where every living thing was defined by the chase, a place where the hunt was the ultimate expression of existence. To them, being an apex predator wasn't an achievement, it was a birthright. Their entire culture, their art, their history, was built around the thrill of pursuit and the finality of domination. Their elders, searching for the next great challenge, spoke of a new world and a new species. Humans. The reports classified them as peculiar omnivorous primates, noteworthy for their obsessive tool use and an almost unnatural capacity for endurance. To the hunters, this description didn't sound like a rival. It sounded like prey with a novel twist. So, they sent their scouting parties to Earth, brimming with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Caution was a concept for the hunted, not for them. First contact wasn't a moment of diplomacy or a cautious exchange of greetings. It began, as all things did for them, with a hunt. From the safety of the shadows, they observed. They studied human movement, expecting to see the familiar patterns of fear. They looked for the sudden, panicked sprints, the scattering, the freezing, timeless logic of prey. But what their sensors recorded dismantled every assumption they held. Humans walked toward danger, not away from it. When crisis struck, a strange, calm persistence would spread through their groups. There was no terror, no paralysis. There was only calculation. The first hunter unit decided to test this anomaly. They chose a dense forest reserve and a lone human target. They created diversions, loud noises meant to trigger the instinct to flee. But the human didn't run. Instead, he melted into the undergrowth, methodically positioning himself on higher ground. He used the wind to mask his scent and sound. He listened, mapping their positions as they tried to triangulate his. These weren't the actions of prey. This was the cold cognition of a fellow predator. Frustrated, the hunters attacked. Teklas ed, in claws unsheathed appendages, designed to tear through the armored hides of their world's most formidable beasts. The human, however, didn't meet force with force. He met it with leverage. A fallen branch became a fulcrum. A stumble wasn't a mistake. It was a controlled throw. As the lead hunter overextended, his balance momentarily lost, the human moved. He didn't aim for the armored chest or the muscular limbs. He struck the throat, exposed for a fraction of a second. A single, precise blow. The engagement was over. The surviving hunters, stunned and confused, began to retreat, and that's when the true horror began for them. The human pursued. This was the first test of that abnormal endurance. The hunters were sprinters, built for explosive bursts of speed. But they couldn't maintain the pace. They soon realized they weren't just being chased. They were being herded. The human hunting strategy was an inversion of everything they understood. Humans didn't hunt with speed or overwhelming strength. They hunted with persistence. This relentless pressure, this marathon of attrition, broke the hunters' formation and their spirit. The second contact took place in a city, a sprawling maze of concrete and glass. The hunters, having learned a bitter lesson about direct confrontation, attempted a stealthy infiltration under the cover of night. They believed the urban chaos would mask their presence. They were wrong. Humans, they discovered, detected them through subtle disruptions and patterns. A door hinge slightly out of alignment. The cadence of footsteps that didn't belong. The sound of breathing in a space that should have been empty. The hunters hadn't considered that humans had adapted to predation long before they built cities. The urban environment hadn't dulled their instincts. It had only sharpened them, giving them new tools and new angles to exploit. When the hunters finally launched their assault, the city itself turned against them. Humans used the very structure of their environment as a weapon. Stairwells became kill zones. Reflections in glass revealed ambushes. Sound bounced off walls, creating phantom targets and disorienting echoes. Every corner, every doorway, every alley became a potential trap. The hunters, who relied on their raw physical superiority, found themselves outmaneuvered. Humans relied on a different kind of power. Cognition, sharpened over millennia of surviving megafauna that, by all rights, should have wiped them from existence. This fundamental disparity in strategy nullified the hunters' natural advantages. The third contact was an escalation. The hunters sent their elites, warriors encased in exoskeletal armor and armed with advanced shock weaponry. This was to be a demonstration of overwhelming dominance, a show of force to crush this inexplicable resistance. But the humans didn't try to match their technology. They did the last thing the elites expected. They closed the distance. In close quarters, the hunters' advanced gear became clumsy and ineffective. Human hands, shockingly fast and precise, exploited the tiny gaps in the armor, the joints and seams. Thumbs pressed into nerve clusters. Limbs were twisted with brutal rotational torque, targeting joint limits with anatomical precision. They found pain thresholds that stunned the elite warriors into immobility. There was no fear in the humans' eyes, only a measured, terrifying violence. The post-battle analysis forced a complete and agonizing reassessment of the hunters' understanding of the universe's biological hierarchy. They began to study human history, delving into the fossil record, and there they found the answer. Humans hadn't evolved by running from predators. They had evolved by hunting them. They had hunted mammoths, cave bears, and saber-toothed cat creatures larger, stronger, and faster than themselves. Their tools weren't just novelties. They were extensions of an unyielding intent, an intent shaped by the necessity of survival in a world that punished hesitation with extinction. The hunters finally understood. Humans weren't an anomaly. They were the product of a uniquely brutal evolutionary crucible, a world that had forged them into something new. Their brains specialized in prediction and pattern recognition. Their bodies were optimized for endurance above all else, and their psychology had adapted to face lethal threats with a terrifying blend of cold cooperation and fierce aggression. The hunters withdrew from Earth. Their ruling council issued a species-wide ban on any future pursuit of humans. It wasn't a decree born of respect or admiration. It was a declaration, born of cold, hard recognition. Humans were the only known species in the galaxy that consistently and successfully hunted creatures that, by all known logic, should have been hunting them. The hunters had come to Earth seeking prey. They found competitors. More than that, they found a species that looked at a predator not as a symbol of fear, but as an obstacle. And for humans, obstacles are simply things to be removed through relentless, applied intent. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content. See you in the next one.